Let's dig into the statements, shall we, before we
So this is breaking news.
This is breaking news earlier today. UEFA's statement that they issued says this ruling does not signify an endorsement or validation of the so-called Super League. UEFA remains resolute in its commitment to uphold the European football pyramid, ensuring that it continues to serve the broader interests of society. We will continue to shape the European sports model collectively with national associations, leagues, clubs, fans, players, coaches, EU institutions, governments, and partners alike. Barcelona, one of the founding and remaining members of the European Super League, also issued a statement. Theirs says, as one of the clubs driving the Super League project, FC Barcelona feels that the sentence paves the way for a new elite level of football competition in Europe by opposing the monopoly over the football world and wishes to initiate new discussions as to the path that European competitions should take in the future. Atletico Madrid have also issued a statement saying the European football community does not support the European Super League. Germany, France, England, Italy, Spain, except for Real Madrid and Barcelona, etc., oppose the Super League. We advocate for protecting the broader European football family, preserving domestic leagues, and securing qualification for European competitions through on-field performance each season. So a lot to unpack there. Guillem Balagué now joins us. And Guillem, this all originated back in 2021. So I want to start with you first on just the backstory. What can you tell us about how this all got going a couple of years back?
The backstory is quite clear from the point of view of those that supported the Super League. They wanted more control and more money. That's basically what it was. And it got to a point where they signed contracts, some of the English sides, the biggest English sides, some of the Spanish sides, Italian sides, German sides even, they signed contracts with the Super League with the idea of building something. Now, what happened at that point, there's two ways to look at it, because, of course, the fans went into the streets and protested. And they love to say that it was down to them, that everything was stopped. It's a little bit disappointed to hear then, actually, that it was a coup de palace, if you like. It was what happened at the highest instances of football that stopped it, not so much what happened in the streets. Because I feel that clubs have got the impression that they can more or less manipulate what the fans feel about things if they talk about bigger names, bigger players, bigger games. But certainly there were protests in the streets. What I think happened was that those that supported the Super League at the time felt that there was not a legal support to continue steps towards the Super League. So then they got all scared. They were threatened from FIFA, from UEFA, from governments as well, like the UK government, that thought like, no, this is not right. Let's stop this right now. And they didn't feel that there was either enough support amongst themselves, those that wanted the Super League, but as I say, not a legal body, legal rules that would support them either. So then they saw people in the streets and thought, oh, I know. Right, fans have told us to stop and we will stop. But really, it didn't stop. What happened was, with the push of first Juventus, but then they abandoned the project, but especially Barcelona and Real Madrid, and with the support of A22 Sports, an agency that has battled on their behalf, what has happened is that they've gone to the highest instance possible, and the resolution came out today, in which basically saying this is the end of the monopoly of UEFA and FIFA in terms of regulating competitions. Big, massive news. And of course, now the negotiations will start between clubs that are interested in the European Super League. Let me tell you, most of them are. And the UEFA and FIFA in terms of how it all gets together. But football, as we know it, changed today.
Guillem, a lot has been talked about in the United States about fixture congestion with US Open Cup and MLS. I know Europeans have long been saying, Jurgen Klopp, Pep Guardiola, too many matches. How would this be different than the Champions League or the Europa League in terms of the amount of competition in the middle of the regular season with all the matches that they're already played? How many more matches would be added to the calendar?
Charlie, the easiest answer is we don't know. What has happened today is that the Super Cup, representatives of the Super Cup, have presented a competition that will have 14 games minimum, with all those that are involved in like a 3-league competition. This is what we know. But actually, what they are saying, and you see, the proposal of A22 that includes 64 participant clubs, as I say, 14 minimum matches per club. The number of weeks in which they will involve in this Super League will be 19. There's more that they said today. There will be promotions and relegations. There will be meritocracy. Those that deserve it from the domestic leagues will get into the European Super League. All that is what we know, or what has been proposed. Because really, what we are doing today, is discuss what European football should look like. This is what we stand. And that includes you and us and media people, certainly, but of course, clubs and players and coaches. What has happened today is that they all gone with the backing of a ruling that cannot be appealed against, is throw it all up in the air. And let's see what comes out of it. Maybe there will be a domestic competitions that instead of having 20 teams has 18. Maybe at the moment they're talking about playing the European Super League in midweek. Maybe it gets played at the weekends. We just don't know. Negotiations start now with a much stronger position from the Super League. So it is life-changing in a way, but we don't know the shape of it in the future. What certainly has happened is that a big organization, one that everybody should respect, from the European Union, saying, UEFA, FIFA, you have been a monopoly, things need to change.
Wow. Guillem, I want to ask specifically about the fight to try to keep these teams away from joining the Super League, whether it's the Premier League, the FA, the Spanish Federation, UEFA, FIFA. Is with this ruling, do you think this calls them to the carpet to negotiate a way for everyone to work together, or do you think this still is a breakaway?
There's going to have to be negotiations, and at 2 o'clock Central European time, there's going to be a press conference that includes Tebas and UEFA, and they're all going to defend their position, which basically is going to say that some of what has been said today by the Justice Tribunal of the European Union was already in the rulings, or is already in the rulings of UEFA, that all the competitions can be organized. That's what they're saying. And also, it's clear that this tribunal has not specifically ruled on the Super League. That's clear. And they're going to hang on to those things. And they're going to say nothing much has to change, or perhaps we could adjust what we've got. Whatever is the position, that is the beginning of negotiations with, at the moment, the Super League represented by Barcelona and Real Madrid. But let me tell you, even though publicly clubs in England, for instance, will say, oh, we don't want change, fans don't want it, they've been listening. They've been very close to Barcelona and Madrid. They've been knowing everything that's been happening.
Yeah.
And because they've been knowing everything that's been happening, even in England, you will get clubs that will want to listen closely and say, how does it affect us? Can we get more money through it? Can we get more control? Because at the bottom of this story is big clubs wanting more money and more control. And the European Union has said control has to be shared around, cannot be just in the hands of FIFA and UEFA.
Gia, I like your take on everything you're saying so far, and I'm with you in the fact of this is going to change football forever as we know it. This is just the start. With everything you're saying, and we know about the financial struggles of some of these big clubs in Europe, how much of an eye are you keeping on Saudi Arabia, on their involvement in football, and how much of an opportunity does this present to Saudi Arabia right now?
So, Real Madrid and Barcelona cannot compete with club state. I'll say that again in case you didn't hear it. Barcelona and Madrid cannot compete with club state, as they call them. Those that have got unlimited sources of funds that doesn't come from football and can get into football. That's how Barcelona and Madrid are describing this. We cannot compete against them. So it must be a way in which by establishing a new competition, perhaps, establishing a new competition that actually allows them to earn a lot of money, then they can compete. That's what they want, more money and more control. And it is one way of limiting the influence of Saudi Arabia or Qatar or others that may want to get into football. It's a way to balance things out. That's what they say about Barcelona and Madrid. It's fine that they have unlimited sources. We cannot compete with that. But of course, if we get 250 million a year from the European Super League, then we can compete a little bit better. So it is a way to reduce the force and influence of Saudi Arabia, of Qatar, and other countries that may want to own clubs.
Guillem, since now we're flipping the football world upside down in Europe, it's been floated around that matches would be played on U.S. soil. Could we expect down the line, down the road, some of these big matches, European Super League, coming to the States?
And why not? And wouldn't it be exciting? And why not? And I think a lot of what we have to do from now on, if we open to change, and I know how conservative football is, and I know that's those that are at the top that have got more money than others that generally can get the better players, especially Premier League, which is already in a way a Super League, they will say, no change, we're okay as we stand. Yeah, I understand that, but the likes of Ajax and Bruges and Celtic and Rangers, they cannot compete with you. Is there a way where they can? The Super League are saying, yes, there is this way. But once that's open for discussion, that all the smaller clubs get more money, as we say, perhaps smaller domestic competitions, whatever is for discussion, why not? One of the things to discuss is to take football to fans where fans are. And why not the United States, the Far East, whatever, China, anything. Anything is possible because now it's a matter of imagining the future, which is open for discussion. And I understand the leagues and the UEFA, this press conference will hear it all, of course, in which they say, put the brakes on. They'll say there are judicial reasons for this not to happen. But I insist, I think we are now entering a new era in which anything is possible.
I feel like this is more about greed than competition, right? So,
Wow.
Wow.
Really going out
that
on
was
a
an
limb
easy
there.
assessment.
at what point do the players have power to say,
No, the players will not
Enough.
ever get involved in that. The players are going to get well paid. The players will not get involved in that.
Yeah,
the fans are the ones with the
the
power.
majority of players will say, I'm cool to play games in China, I'll play matches in the States, wherever, as long as I'm getting paid and the rest of the footballing world suffers?
Yeah.
Players will be that kind of mindset.
Yeah.
Because not all players are motivated by the same
We've
thing.
got Barcelona playing a friendly in the U.S. today, and they had a game
And
midweek. So anything can happen. Guillem, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Great insight as always, and we will talk so much more about this breaking story